I'm going to share another experience that I had, and this was when I was in my room, and I was doing a little being in a state of awareness practice, and this time my wardrobe wasn't involved, but nevertheless, while I was being in my state of awareness, my attention was suddenly drawn to my doorway, and standing in my doorway was one of those little grey aliens that you see with the big almond eyes and the big heads and the sort of little almost fetus-like bodies with grey skin, etc. And it gave me quite a start at first. It made me jump because it was just suddenly there, appearing there as though out of the blue. But then I then after my initial sort of start, I would greet the being, and I invited it to enter into my room and have a chat if it so desired. But then it just faded away.
Well, that's cool. So it's like a little ET?
Yeah, just like an atypical grey alien that you see depicted in a lot of the movies. Yeah, similar to the E.T. thing, I think. More along the lines of the aliens in Communion and the books by Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, well, again, these beings, they're making choices too. And so see it from its view, his view or her view, whatever. See it from their view, and that is that they're popping in and out of situations, and just like we are popping in and out of situations with people all the time because we have 5 different bodies, and our awareness is kind of scattered everywhere until we really kind of get a focus and start to recognize how we're doing these things. And so the aliens themselves, for the most part, they're everybody's here in creation, and so everybody has different body types that they've evolved into. And so the aliens just didn't fall out of the sky. It's been through millions of lifetimes and years they've made certain decisions, and their body types have evolved to a particular, you see. And so especially like the reptilians are a good example. They haven't really matured much because for the most part, they're a warring race. This is how they are. And so they've stayed kind of prehistoric and primitive. See? So all of us have gone through our experiences. And and just like in the physical realm here, there are millions and billions of planets and different systems and different body types, just like in Star Wars or Star Trek. You see all these things. Yeah, they really do exist, and everybody has attitudes. But it could be that this guy is just checking you out because they also see certain things about people. Many of the aliens are very telepathic, and they see certain things about you because, see, we have the real light here, and they notice things about you, and they're curious. You see, and so I would say it's kind of that angle, and it's not about having a conversation, but they're just kind of curious, but they're not sure about you either. You see, it's kind of like that. But you'll figure it out. But it's just, I would just say it's a little visit, but they see things, they recognize certain things. As we're dealing with the Orions and that, they can read us. You see, and they see something about us that they really can't quite recognize, but it's not a bad thing, you see. So in the meantime, just like in the movies where you see all of a sudden a big blast of light, a lot of people get afraid, etc. They've been taught to be afraid of the light, but some people aren't. They just walk right in it. And so again, what is the little alien seeing, and what is his idea? So we're having experiences all the time like this, and at times they show up, but they're taking a look at us, and what we're doing here on the Skype, well, they're absolutely watching us and listening to everything. And just like that one experience that Sandy explained, I don't know if you heard it, where she was in her house and she saw one of the reptilians sitting there listening. I think it was to this talk right here that we were doing weeks and weeks ago. And she was thinking certain things, and he said, "Stop thinking, I'm listening." You see? So again, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I was. It was a pity in a way because I was rather hoping to have a little chat with the alien, but it didn't seem to particularly oblige me in that regard. But perhaps next time. uh, I had another dream as well, and this time I came across a group of people, and they seemed to be discussing a means by which they could con and cheat other individuals out of money. It was a kind of scam that they were constructing. It was something to do with Windows or some such, and then they noticed me, and they tried to encourage me to be a part of their dastardly scheme. And I was reluctant, and then they said, in response to that, after all, you only live once, so you may as well make the most of it. And to wit, I replied and responded, as it gave me the opportunity to inform them about the life levels, reincarnation, and cause and effect repercussions for bad deeds, including conning people out of money, etc. But they didn't seem very convinced, however. So I just thought to myself, well, I guess they'll find out for themselves.
No, that was very good. It sounds like a bunch of brokers I've dealt with over the years, self-convinced, yeah, you only live once, just get it while you can, etc. That's the sales force of America and the world, etc. Just doesn't matter what you're selling or whatever, just get it sold. So there's different ways to con people out of their money, not just stealing their purses or whatever, but you set up situations, and I've been in them, and I've been had many times through different things, and that was really a course that cost me a lot, but from that, it helped me get into the bigger picture, so I've really paid for my education because I was too trusting and not checking things out. Well, now I do, and so you're seeing this on the real side, so again, it's a heads up, so as you all of a sudden come into certain situations, you see, because you've had that experience, and the boys may have set it up too, just so that, as you're dealing with others, you're not so trusting because of the appearance or the charisma of people, you see. Just like the politicians and the movie stars. They have a lot of charisma, and people trust that. They trust that created front, instead of looking at the intent of the individual. So, there's many ways to look at that experience, young man, because it's going on around us all the time. And yes, for the most part, that people that are into, their little devious plans or their ideas of things, they don't want to hear anything else. They're only self-convinced. That's the idea of, well, you only come around once, so you may as well just get whatever you can. And so, that's their awareness also, which they're exemplifying. But, I look at it as, an objective view as to what's going on, etc. And then when you present this to the world and different ideas, for the most part, the world resents it because people know within themselves what's going on, but they don't want to divulge that. And so, as we're doing this and the new presentation continues to spread, well, Joni and Harry on the real side, they're very upset because the more we're seen and recognized, the more they're exposed, and they don't like it. And they really come right up, and they show their attitudes, and they try to do everything they can. And so does the world itself. The controllers of this world, the cabal or whatever, they don't like people becoming more aware. That's why they're dousing us with poison and Wi-Fi and subliminals and etc., because they want to maintain the control, because they're afraid people are just becoming too aware. They're seeing through all of this nonsense that they've went through for lifetimes. But again, for the most part, they don't know what to do. So they go to the love idea or the God idea, or they go to some religion, and they pray to the gods that have been invented and created by the reptilians, etc. So they use the love idea because that's an easy one. But to come into this and start to face yourself and really see the nitty-gritty of everything and then get beyond that, this is a huge adventure that most people don't want to confront. So, but yes, it's all around you, Kevin. So you're getting that view there. So you start to take a look at things differently. Even sometimes the family you grew up in, again, everybody's suspect, aren't they?
Yep, sure are a lot of suspicious and dubious-looking people lurking around. There's no doubt about that. Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Um, I thought I'd share this next dream. It's quite short, but I think Gwen would appreciate it because she always voices a lot of concern over her lack of recollection of her dreams. And in this dream, she was in it as well with me. And in fact, Peter was there too. And we were in this garden, and I had the impression that it was a life level beyond the astral. It was a place of extreme beauty and tranquility. And there was me, Gwen, and Peter, and we were flying around and around in this garden. And that was it, really. But I thought I'd share it simply to dispel Gwen's contention that she doesn't have any dreams, or at least cannot recollect them.
Well, of course. So again, see, other people's experiences, I like to hear them. They're like bedtime stories, you know, where I'm with others, or they're having certain experiences that I'm involved in, or anything like that, because it's a confirmation. We all need that, because the personal self here is very one-dimensional. It really is. It thinks it's multi-dimensional, but really, it's, for the most part, it's encased within itself, which is fine. Especially once you learn to be objective. It has a place, you know, just like the shoes on your feet, you know, you use them for a particular, and that's kind of how the consciousness is created for the individual. They're kind of like shoes, and they simply house, you know, the individual itself. And so, but this is your opportunity to see more. And you know, I have learned so much through the experiences of others, because, see, everything is a view. It's not about what you know, it's about what you see, and recognize. That's the best part, because once you see and recognize how to step out of this personal self, and you can do it right here, you don't have to project from the body, but just through your awareness, then you're not limited to it anymore. And so as the body goes through its process, eventually, you know, just like an old car or old clothes, you just drop it, that's it. But you have the awareness, you see? And that's what's operating these bodies. So when you stop thinking or stop assuming anything, all of a sudden you see that you're aware, and it is that awareness that's operating this body, and it's always here and now. But all of a sudden, you're viewing other parts of creation. Now, when you get to the extreme, you might say, of the reality life is, well, it's absolutely invisible. And this is where, you know, for the most part, most people think, well, nothing can exist. This is where the deep, dark border is in creation. And this is the nirvana state, or the void, that many people, you know, first of all, they get everything out of their mind, they clear their mind, and they're absolutely nothing. So they've reached that state of, you know, not really relating to the other bodies, and they think that's the ultimate, but it's not. And that is the real universe is a matter of perceiving, you know, it's a matter of seeing and perceiving something that isn't there according to the personal self and the five bodies. This becomes the next step. But it's easy to categorize things with your mind, but to really actually see it, etc., that invisible part. So, yeah, that experience as you share it. See, to me, when people say, oh, well, I had you in this experience, Dwayne, we did this or whatever, or some of the experiences that people say, or I'm involved with people and we're doing certain things like we're doing right now with the Orions, etc., well, I like to hear these things because they're like bedtime stories. To me, it's like, wow, that's really cool. Remember when you were little and your mom read you stories? And, you know, you weren't really literalized then. You were just, you might say, fantasizing with what the story was about, and you didn't always understand. But you see, you get to that point where you let go of that literal mind. It's always there, like a book on a shelf. It's not going away. But at some point, you'll be glad that it does go away, because you'll be free of it, and you will be in a position of awareness that's better than any fantasy that you can decide. And so that's why you're here. But again, this is how I see it, and more than just a cute little dream or so, because one experience can open up everything for you. But it just depends upon when that spark hits and you decide to explore, you see. So again, you're giving them the objective experience. And this is what's fun to share with people, especially when they're open to it. Okay? Yeah. That's a good one.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Yes, my favourite bedtime story that Gwen would have said to me was about the giant pancake. Anyway, moving on.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, it is a very strange dream indeed. I encountered a very odd individual. And if you've seen or read Stephen King's book called It, the clown character in that, Pennywise, he is basically an evil, twisted creature, and with the ability to shape and manipulate reality and affect the individuals he comes in contact with adversely. And so the creature I bumped into was like a very extreme version of this. And on this occasion, it seemed I didn't have any apparent protection or ability myself to deal with this creature, and I was with a group, and we were all subjected to all manner of unsavoury experiences due to this thing. I won't go into details about what actually happened in it, but suffice it to say it was pretty bad. And then I woke up, and the impression that I had on waking was this was an experience allowed to unfold or set up to possibly demonstrate how, due to my awareness as it is now, I can view a situation like this far more objectively and not get too caught up in it, as would I have had such an experience before, maybe a couple of years ago or whatever, I may have been pretty shaken. It may have been, in fact, very traumatic, I would have said. And but I pretty much shrugged it off and actually considered it rather an interesting experience. And so this sort of demonstrated and showed to me that I am a little stronger within myself than before, due to my recognition of my awareness. And it also shows too that there are definitely all manner of weird, twisted and creepy beings out there in the astral or wherever they may lurk. So it's also a heads up about that.
Yeah, that's the basic idea, just like your impression, Kevin, when you came back. That's it was a setup for you to, you have the impression, if it's a real experience or a setup, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so if it's a movie you're watching or if it's a real life situation that you're dealing with your friends or family, it's really all the same thing, because you're always the view. And so again, all these experiences we're going through is to wake us up to something else, and then we decide from there. So it's learning to see that. So these are the steps you're going through when you're dealing with your personal self. Okay, so you first have to recognize a whole lot of things, and yes, the reactions are very, very important to prepare you for anything, etc. Like a parachute jump or whatever. And so I use many times Fukushima as an example. When that happened, and they put the atomic bomb and used HARP on the fault line there, and that wave was directed to them. That wave came so fast that all those people, they're in the real side, they're in the astral world, and they're screwed up for a lot of lifetimes simply because they weren't prepared, because it happened so fast. So this is where you're going through the process, and just like raising a child, the parents prepares them for the world the best they can, but all of a sudden one day the child can, at 5 years old, run out in the street after its ball and it gets hit by a car. You've done the best you can, but all of a sudden things happen. And so this is what the boys are doing. They're preparing yourself, they're preparing you and others that are willing to be prepared for what's taking place in this world, because the world, presents itself a particular way. But just like the Matrix, when you look at the backside, it's not at all what it appears to be. Yeah, it's a lot worse. And this is because of what people have decided. And a lot of people are, you might say, innocent bystanders according to the system, because they get caught up in the system. We are the product of our environment. So yes, that preparation is very, very important so that you can make it through this life and all of a sudden wake up and you're no longer pulled back or down by the effects of it, you see? Because a lot is happening in this world every single moment. This is where you bring yourself more so and more so. You practice to be now and just to view what's going on with your experience realistically, instead of your mind always jumping around into the future, into the past, and all these different places that are just imagery and phenomena, because all of a sudden something happens, all of a sudden you don't know what to do. This is what happens when many people pass over. Actually, you're in this life, and one of the biggest things that you're to prepare for is to pass over. But that is not even considered here. And then all of a sudden people think, well, gee, I'm a teenager. I'm only 17. I'm going to live to be 80. Well, unless you get hit by a bus and all of a sudden, surprise, then you're on the real side and you don't know what's going on. So what do? You start again and you try and get another body and an agreement to get into this life, etc. See, what a heck of a process you got to keep going through. But right now you have the knowledge and the information. Take advantage of it, not take it for granted every single moment. So this is what the boys are doing, because it takes a lot to get through this, just like it does through school, through high school, through college, through university, and then to even get through your profession as an example. Okay, but there's other ways to do this. But yeah, it takes a lot for us to wake up to where we are self-sufficient from the effects that we've considered and agreed to for lifetimes. And we carry those until we recognize we don't need them anymore. But for the most part, most people want to hang on to these things because that's all they know, but they don't realize it's phenomena. So you're being prepared in many different ways for extreme conditions, because of the world is extreme. The world keeps agreeing to being just totally, crazy. It's just insane, the world that we're in here, but it's played out to be okay and normal, that we're poisoned worse and worse every day, as one example, and radiated too. This is an okay thing, you see, and it becomes a normal, it becomes an attitude of okay in the consciousness also, but it's really controlled by the subconscious. So you're given these experiences to prepare yourself so that you are okay in your real awareness, so you no longer get trapped into all this process you're in. It's a whole lot, isn't it?
Yep, it certainly is. Okay, thank you, Dwayne. And the last dream I will share for today, before I share it, in the past, before I came across the NuPresentation, I used to do a lot of lucid dream practicing as well, along with my outer body and astral projecting. And so occasionally, as with the outer body experiences, they will automatically occur, sort of thing, because and this was one such occasion. I basically became completely aware in my dream, so it was akin to a lucid dream. And I would find myself in a store, and it was full of people doing their general drudgery, the workers there. It was a very mundane situation. They were just sort of drifting about, sort of completely oblivious other than the boring tasks they had to perform. And so I elected to cause a little disruption, basically for the purpose of shaking them a little out of their robotic drone-like states. And so I turned myself into a rampaging beast-like creature, and I proceeded to bound up and down the aisles to the and this actually had, and this did have the effect of drawing people's attention and breaking them out of their routinary. And while I was at it, I found there were a lot of animals in cages everywhere. So I then proceeded to free them all, and all these animals were then bounding, bouncing, and flying all over the place.
So that's your idea of fun, Kevin?
Yeah, I had a whale of a time personally. I don't think the rest of the people there appreciated it, but I certainly enjoyed myself.
Well, again, it was your experience, you know best. So we've all done funny things. Yes, we have. That's cute. That's good. Well, that's you get the idea. You did it, so that's cool.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's it. Yes, that's it. It's self-explanatory. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was just a fun dream, just to finish off the Skype with and share with people a bit of I'd say something to offset all the nuclear war things and bombs and scary stuff and Pennywise the clowns that are lurking out there, etc., etc. And so I will thank you very much, Dwayne, for giving us the opportunity to share our dreams and giving us your insights and your interpretations of them and so forth.